MDOT presents the Extra Mile Podcast.
Welcome into another edition of the Extra Mile Podcast presented by the Mississippi Department of Transportation. I'm Paul Catul, and today, filling in for Will Kraft, who will be back, is last episode's guest, MDOT Public Information Officer Michael Flood. Mikey, are you happy to be with us?
I am.
I know
I'm
you really
ecstatic.
wanted to be on.
Yes, I pigeonholed you guys into committing to let me come guest host if one of y'all are ever out, and then lo and behold, it happened. So thanks for letting me do this.
Awesome. Yeah, total blackmail, but
Yeah, absolutely.
He's on the show and happy to be here. And today we have a really great guest with a really cool title. I'm jealous. Chief Information Officer. That is pretty
Very
cool.
cool title.
Ben Cohen, who's been with MDOT for quite some time. Ben, welcome in. Thank you for joining us.
Appreciate y'all having me today.
Of course. So, like I mentioned, you've been at MDOT at the agency for quite some time. So why don't you take us back a little bit, kind of what's your background, and then talk about kind of your career here at MDOT with us.
Well, I graduated from the University of Southern Mississippi in 2001, to the top. I had my resume on the Career Center there, so MDOT gave me a call, and I came and interviewed and really liked the environment I saw and took the job. Been here ever since. Started off as a software developer on the financial management system. It was implemented, it went live July 1st, 1998. So it was still kind of had lots of bugs and issues to be worked out. So I had a lot of work to do when I first got here, and spent 10 years developing on FMS. Eventually I became the technical manager over that team, and about 2010. And then by 2014, they promoted me into the Chief Information Officer position. So most of my background is on the financial side, project accounting, things of that nature, our federal reimbursement, the process to get our money back from the feds. I knew a lot about that and supported that for a long time. So that's my background far as before I became director, I guess you could say.
Amazing. Yeah. What a meteoric rise, if you will.
Yeah, 25 years, that's quite a long time, and I'm sure you've seen a lot, learned a lot since being here, and I know that one thing, that we're all interested in is the use of AI these days, and, how that's implemented. Are we allowed to use it?
Sure.
Is it helping us increase efficiency? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So earlier this year, it was actually late fall 25, I believe, we adopted an acceptable use policy for AI. And, it just outlines, we did not want to be a barrier to our employees using AI. We want to make sure that they could use it. So really all it outlines is the things that you do not need to do. We don't need to share, personal identifiable information with AI or any sensitive data for the agency. We will allow you to use ChatGPT, Grok, Copilot, things of that nature to help supplement your job efforts, and to make sure that everybody understood that they were responsible for the whatever results from the AI, that you are ultimately responsible for the accuracy of that data. And that's basically what our acceptable use policy outlines. And so that got put in, I think, into our SOP system back in the fall. The governor signed an executive order back in January of 2025. All state agencies had to come up with a listing of use cases or anything that they had in production that they were already using, an inventory, an AI inventory, if you will. We had to put that together and submit that to the Department of Information Technology Services. The goal there is to see what the state agencies are doing, find out a way, if there's a way to, to come up with best practices and help advise agencies on what to do to make sure we keep the state's assets, secure and protected. And that's what I think the Department of IT, the Information Technology Services, is supposed to do with that executive order. They emailed us back in April. Again, we have to update that list every year, it looks like. So wow. That's some of the things we're doing, I guess, from a policy perspective. Some of the use cases that we've been doing are, right now we have some of our developers using Copilot to help check their code, check the logic of their code. It can probably develop some code for you as well, It helps, it's a force multiplier. It helps our developers that we currently have on staff just produce more faster. so we can probably get some of our internal development efforts done and out the door a little bit quicker than we have in the past. I think that's a great use of it. On the traffic side, one thing we're looking at right now is the ability to help our TMC monitor all the traffic. We got 1,200 traffic cameras, or roughly there, across the state. And they got the video wall. We got 2 people that are usually on staff at any given time, up to 3. Sometimes they work 24/7. But anyway, one thing we want to do is use AI to help detect any kind of debris on the road, any crashes, incidents before the video wall rolls across. He could highlight that camera for them and let them know, hey, there's an incident. They go ahead and post the alert to MDOT traffic into the mobile app. And so those are some things that we're looking into. Chunking of our files, PDFs, Word documents, so we got a lot of material that is stored on our servers. People need to ask questions about our SOPs right now. What we want to do is take the SOPs and break them down into smaller pieces and allow AI to analyze them, so we can have a chat bot or something like that to be able to go and ask questions and get answers back. And so those are some things we're looking at as well. A lot of things on the list.
Yeah, it sounds like it is helping from an efficiency standpoint as long as it's used responsibly.
That's right.
And you mentioned that's a good segue going into our traffic management center, the TMC you mentioned. What is the goal? I mean, what is the TMC for anyone listening that is
Sure.
not aware of it? Can you tell us about what it does?
It's the Traffic Management Center, and so it is staffed 24/7. They monitor cameras. They have a video wall, so it's like a big dispatch center, so to speak. They sit there, they watch the video wall go by. They monitor the traffic, looking for any kind of congestions or wrecks or incidents. They coordinate that with emergency responders. They coordinate with our maintenance and construction crews on any construction and maintenance activities. And their goal is to get alerts out to the traveling public as quickly as they can. It's about safety on the roadways. And people that are using our MDOT Traffic mobile app, if they go on to MDOT Traffic and they've set up a commute, they can either get alerts through the app itself, they can get alerts through the website, they can get text messages for their commutes, things of that nature. That is essentially the goal is safety. During the holiday season or any kind of events that are going on, like where we have to, they control the digital message signs, the dynamic message signs. They can put messages out there directly to the traveling public. And so they'll coordinate that during major events downtown, like at the fairgrounds or anything going on during the holidays. But that's essentially what's going on there, yeah.
Yeah, it'll help from a safety standpoint, and I must attest this morning it saved me. I got on a different exit. I took a different entrance ramp to 55 because I saw that there was a crash on, on the southbound side of 55 at Lakeland. So it'll help you get to and from work quicker
Yeah, I
as
was
well.
going to say the mobile app is a great tool for people if they'll go download it because it uses the geofencing technology.
Right.
So as you're driving down the road, as alerts enter into your geofence, they will automatically. You don't have to set up a commute or anything like that. It's dynamic. So it knows where you're traveling, and it will alert you as you travel to anything that you may encounter so you can take a detour quicker,
Second and third, downloading the MDOT Traffic app or going to mdottraffic.com. You go there, hit the landing page, you can download it or check out the web app, and tell everybody, we're trying to tell people more that this is the same information that the TMC, that Public Affairs has. We're not keeping any information for you, so we're happy to answer questions in Public Affairs, but really everything is located within that app. Yep. So really, really solid work that everyone does on that team for sure. And then kind of segueing a little more, so ITS is kind of connected to that. Intelligent Transportation Systems.
That's right.
They kind of play hand in hand with the TMC a little bit. So can you kind of tell us what we're doing in that space?
Yeah, I mean, most of that stuff is like your cameras, for instance. That's part of the ITS program. Your digital message signs, the DMS that are out there, all those. Any of those devices like that will interconnect back to our advanced traffic management system. So our TMC has access to those devices out in the field. Those messages that y'all come up with that everybody loves so much, The TMC, I think, gets a list of those from y'all each month maybe, and they post that through that system out to those digital signs. They can control the cameras, the PTZ functionality through the advanced traffic management system. So those are some of the things that they're doing. Back to AI for just a moment, we are piloting a few new camera technologies where the cameras themselves have AI chips built into them.
Wow.
And these cameras have the ability to detect a pedestrian crossing a busy roadway. They have the ability to detect whether the types of vehicles, whether it's a truck, car, a motorcycle. So they're doing intelligent processing right there at the endpoint in the field, and they can send that data back to us real time. We're testing it right now, but that's where the future is going to be. I think on the traffic side is not only are we monitoring for incidents on the roadway, hazards on the roadway, we're able to tell what type of traffic we have on the roadway, and wrong way detection is built into these cameras as well. So that's some more, intelligent transportation type system devices that we're looking at deploying in the field, and that's where AI is taking us. Yeah,
That's amazing. Not only are we using AI to do things like write emails for us, but
Yeah.
we could possibly be
Right.
saving lives. And before we move on, I do want to call out some people, give some people some props by name. Daniel Wilson at the TMC
That's right.
Love Daniel.
does an absolutely phenomenal job. It's kind of crazy to think Mikey's been working with him for 10 plus years now, and I can't name everybody, but I know Carl and Chris deal with those guys
That's
a lot.
right.
So I know they work hard behind the scenes. So I wanted to kind of shout them out.
Look, those guys 24/7.
Right.
Even during the holidays. Thanksgiving we have to make shift changes, make sure somebody's there. Of course, Thanksgiving is a heavily traveled day,
Right.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's one of the reasons we still keep the TMC open.
Yeah.
The only time we close it is Christmas Day.
We'll let them have
Yeah.
that.
We'll let them
Yeah.
have. I figured that was good. We
Yeah,
could do that, right?
Yeah, right.
Christmas.
For sure.
But no, those guys do a great job out there, and we appreciate having them. And you're right, Daniel Wilson. He's usually the one behind the mic, by the way, answering the questions about the TMC.
He sure is. He answers a lot of our questions, I know,
Oh,
daily.
yeah.
And that's interesting that AI is being used to detect pedestrian crossings. That is a major issue we see here in the metro area. Unfortunately, just want to remind everyone out there to never try and cross an interstate or highway on foot. It's extremely dangerous for everyone involved, including the pedestrian and the driver. So, that's great that we're implementing something that can help,
That's right.
combat that.
And we're trying to retrofit that with our current cameras with software that rides on top of the camera
great.
feed. So we're just testing all that out right now to see how it performs. And other divisions will probably be able to use some of that data as well.
Amazing.
I think, so.
So another thing that we utilize here in our division are drones. We use drones to shoot a lot of projects, show a lot of progress on these projects, and then LiDAR as well is something we have a little experience in. But can you tell us about how agency-wide this technology is being used?
Sure. Well, of course, as you said, let's see, the drone program, let's just start back at the beginning, if you don't mind. It started around 2018, I think. We needed to coordinate an effort to get drones. We were spending money. We were outsourcing it, and it was costing a lot of money. And we decided, hey, we had people that were flying these things recreational, so why not tap into some of that resource and buy our own drones? And so we convinced our executive director that was the move to make, and we put out a drone policy, and we got a list of pilots together and sent them to Hines Community College for training, and they have to be Part 107 certified to fly for MDOT, and then we started buying our first set of drones. I think the first set of drones we bought were mainly for aerial photography,
Right.
And public affairs was using that to just monitor construction progress. I remember the I-20 bridge around Terry Road, if I remember correctly. I think y'all flew that pretty regular.
Total game changer.
Total
having
game
drones.
changer. Highway 49 project, we flew it
That's
a
right.
great amount to just track the progress of
Absolutely.
the projects, which I think was a great thing. The general public loves to see that kind of
It really
progress.
makes a
Yeah.
big difference shooting from above. Yeah.
Absolutely. So then it progressed into the LiDAR capabilities and being a survey tool, just another survey tool in the tool belt. And so around 2021, we bought the first set of LiDAR drones, which stands for light detection and ranging. And basically these drones have a sensor on them that shoot lasers down to the surface of the earth and waits for the reflectivity to come back, and they measure that distance, and it does a 3D mapping of the earth, and Of course, it catches everything on the way down, trees and cars and, you know, buildings and any kind of structure. And so you just not buy just a LiDAR drone, you're having to buy, you know, heavy-duty PCs to process this information. So when we got the drones out in the districts, the next step was to have the type of compute power they needed to be able to process the 3D point cloud. And so we bought them a set of workstations, put them out in the districts. Now they can clean up those 3D point clouds. They can get to the surface level so they can begin the, you know, design process for any type of project that they're doing. The advantage to these drones are it keeps our guys in safer areas.
Right.
As y'all probably know, just flying the drones and taking, you know, aerial photography, you can do it from off the side of the road in a parking lot.
Absolutely.
And you know, that's safety was one of the key elements to buying the LiDAR drones. Safety and speed. They're out in the field a lot less. They're back in the office processing data a lot more. So, you know, instead of being on the side of a road, instead of being, you know, on the side where you got riprap or out in a heavy wooded area or even around somebody's, you know, mean dog that's barking at them, whatever may be the case, they find a safe place to park. They fly the LiDAR drone, collect millions of points of data, take it back to the office, process it, and get it ready for the design side. So it has there are some things that I know taking half day that take 4 to 6 days in traditional surveying. I know there's some things that have taken a full day that could even take up to 1 to 2 weeks of traditional surveying to collect out in the field that the guys have reported back to us, that they've been able to save that kind of time using the LiDAR drone. So it's been I think a big advantage to our survey crews.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have both been here long enough to. I remember pre-drones, and then and I would much rather be working in a post-drone world. It really helps us show progress, and I know it helps with.
Drones were just a toy at first.
That's right. That's right.
They were just a toy, and you know it. I don't think it took a lot of convincing. It just took us understanding the technology and how to apply it, and you know, and in the safety aspect, I think, you know, it's all about safety around here.
That is a great point.
You know.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I remember the days of having to get under bridges and shoot. You know, now we can just use a drone for that. There's snakes under there. There's all these rocks and you know, obstacles and whatnot. But having a drone now really eliminates that and keeps our crews a lot safer.
That's
right.
Great. We have the aerial, you know, drones that we fly and the LiDAR drones, and we've spec'd out a drone now that's got the camera that points up, so that when they fly it up under the bridge, they can look up. Wow. You know, that was a main thing for the bridge division.
Cool. So
we have a few different flavors of drones. I think we got about 15 drones in our inventory right now.
Amazing. And sensing a common theme here, IS equals efficiency, lots of efficiency things. And we just mentioned briefly just a few things that y'all do, but there's a lot of functions that the division supports for the agency. So you want to kind of briefly take us through a few other highlights?
Sure. We have, well, first off, the division has two arms, so to speak, the application development side and the operation side. And, of course, our application development side, we got a lot of great programmers, great managers, business analysts that work for us that develop in-house software for our agency, and they support a lot of commercial off-the-shelf software. We got a financial management system, a construction management system, a maintenance management system, a safety analysis management system. I mean, you know, the systems go on. In addition to that, on the operations side, that's where your server admins, your database administrators, and your service desk folks are. And they support all that. All the software resides on servers and databases that, you know, reside in our data center that we have here on site. We have a co-located site with ITS, so we have a mirrored site at ITS of all the same servers, databases, everything that we have here is over there. Both sites provide high availability for our systems. That's our goal, is make sure our uptime is there for the whole agency. If any one of these sites goes down, as long as one of the sites is up, we're up and rolling. And so admin building go down, if ITS is up, we're good. If ITS goes down, admin building is up, we're good. And so that's kind of the that's been our plan for high availability and business continuity. So that's in a nutshell. We got database administrators that have to, you know, I think our most important asset we have at this agency is our data. I mean, we have data all over the place. I mean, we have our design files, we have all our project files, we have our financial data. All this data has to be backed up. It's got to be recoverable. So that's what those folks do as well. And then we got our server admins taking care of all our servers and backups and everything that's important to us. So I could go on, but that's in a nutshell what the IS division has doing,
Just an absolute ton of capabilities. I, for one, who work a little bit on the technical side with you guys, am very thankful to be able to just shoot you guys an email or give you a phone call and be able to take care of things. So let me ask you one more question, and we'll get into the fun questions,
Sure.
what you really came here for.
Yeah.
All right, so you've been here, 25 years basically. So what's kept you at MDOT? Why do you enjoy working for the state and MDOT in particular?
Well, I'm sure y'all have heard this same answer before, but I think it's that family atmosphere. I feel like everybody here has each other's backs. We have room to grow. There's some room to learn. We know people are going to make mistakes, but we are all working towards a really, a good mission. I think everybody understands the mission of MDOT. We're a very public, entity. I mean, everybody drives on the roads and the bridges and everything like that. So you feel good about what you're doing, and I think that is what drives me. IT is a component of a lot of things at MDOT, even though people may not think about it. First, it's not out front always. So we feel like we're part of that mission, along with the engineers and the people on the administrative services side, trying to work towards that common goal. And then it's got that family atmosphere, but it's it's our folks too. We have got an incredible staff and information system, and a lot of divisions do. We work with a lot of good people, and I think when you work with good people towards common goals, it drives you to be better and drives you to want to stay at a place like that. So
Well said.
yeah, that's why I'm here.
Co-sign that for sure, and we're very thankful to have you and everyone in IS. Seriously, some of the smartest people I've ever worked with, and very thankful for all of you. All right, so let's hit the fun questions, and Mikey, let's switch things up. Why don't you take the music question?
Yeah, sure.
first?
So, one thing, we're all big music fans here in public affairs, and I know on the podcast, it's always the last question asking about a favorite concert experience. Have you seen any recently that you want to talk about? Is there any that come to mind that you want to tell us about in your?
Yeah, well, I've been to several concerts, actually. The latest, I went to Chicago the other night at Brandon Amphitheater, really good.
Very cool.
They're still cranking it out,
Yeah.
And went to Bush in the rain a few weeks before that. Notable concerts, I had to think about this for a minute. Saw Robert Plant at Thalia Mara.
Wow.
Whoa, that's cool.
And
When was that?
That was in 2016. I actually thought it was more recent. I had to look it up and
Yeah.
realize, wow, that's been a long time.
Wow,
But,
10 years ago. Legend.
he was still vocals just as good as they ever were.
Wow.
Tedeschi Trucks Band, I don't know if you've heard Tedeschi, but they were at Thalia Mara. Saw them at Brandon. They were really good. And me and my wife recently traveled to Denver and went to Red Rocks and saw 311. And
Wow.
if you don't know 311, they're kind of a reggae,
Amazing.
pop, rap,
Yeah.
rock,
Oh, man.
type band. And so those last three I mentioned are probably the most notable.
How cool was it seeing Red Rocks?
Red Rocks itself was just cool.
Yes.
I mean, just sitting in the amphitheater,
Right.
looking out at the mountains. You can see Denver in the
Wow.
distance. We want to go back.
It's on
and
the
I
bucket list.
highly recommend it.
Yes.
Amazing.
It's on the bucket list for sure.
One of guest 311. I love having guests on and just
Yeah.
they'll shoot out something random. Like, oh, Ben likes 311. That's
Dude,
very
I grew
cool.
up in the late '90s. Well, I grew up in the not the late '90s. I grew up in the '90s during the alternative,
Yeah.
rock. I like all those bands. 311 kind of crept up in
Likewise,
there.
311 rocks.
They
And you've
rock.
got some music in your blood.
I do.
Am
I have
yeah.
a little music in my blood. I was a drummer all through junior high,
That
high
is
school,
very cool.
and college. So I played
Amazing.
on the drum line, and I was a snare player. Yeah,
How cool! Wow, always a lot of hidden musicians here at MDOT.
that's right.
Yeah.
No doubt. The MDOT band is coming soon.
That's right.
For sure. So we'll finish you off with
Okay.
the food question.
Sure.
So I know you probably travel around the state a good bit, or maybe a little bit. As,
I do a little bit. Yeah.
Little division director, action. So when you're traveling, where do you like to go to eat? Where's your favorite spot?
Well, this made some of these. I don't know. I had to mull this over because I really don't know. I go down to Hattiesburg a lot, and I always have to stop in Crescent City because that's just nostalgia for
Oh,
me. I love the Hattiesburg area. Keg and Barrel down there, I like that a lot too. And and more recently Hattie's Burgers and Blue. So burgers or Cajun food, I'm good for.
Hattiesburg's got it all.
Hattiesburg's got it all. Here in Jackson, and of course this is my hometown. I grew up in Clinton and grew up going to Chriselle's, so I'm highly upset that Chriselle's is closed. Me and my wife had our wedding dinner there, and my dad and mom were regulars, and so it was a big deal for us when Chriselle's closed. That was my spot.
Oh man,
so I don't know what my spot is in Jackson anymore.
Well, you'll have to keep listening here. I'm sure somebody will recommend something.
I'm sure.
Those are some good options. Very fond of the Keg and Barrel in Hattiesburg. Whenever can make it down there.
Oh yeah.
So lots of good stuff. Ben, thank you for all the information today. Jam-packed, and seriously, thank you for what you and everyone in IS does.
We appreciate y'all too.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
Excellent. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up there. Thank you to our listeners, our viewers for tuning into the Extra Mile podcast. You can watch and listen to episodes by visiting gomdot.com/the extra mile. Follow us on social media at Mississippi DOT is the handle. We want to thank our editor, producer, Drew Hall, for holding things down behind the scenes. And remember, drive smart out there on Mississippi highways.